Hi everyone, my name's Kat Evans. I am the director of 3 Pound Consulting, which is a small boutique consultancy firm that supports businesses with their corporate sustainability, and I'm also the co-founder of Nelly & Co. For any of you with young children, you might have heard of us. We're the first plant-based diaper and wipe brand in East Africa, biodegradable diapers. So today's conversation is all around circular economy. So I think we should just jump, well, actually, if everyone could just quickly introduce themselves, who they are, who they're working for, and maybe just like one poignant issue that you sort of feel you're facing in terms of circular economy within your business.
Good evening, everybody. I want to believe this session was saved to be among the last because it's going to offer the best. So sit back and listen to us. Yeah, I suppose after this. So my name is Daniel Njuguna. I'm the plant manager of the Kenya Breweries, what we call Tusker Brewery, just across the road, generally taking care of all operations within the manufacturing setup. So really glad that we are discussing sustainability. And for us, sustainability is not just in environment or energy. Sustainability for us actually encapsulates 3 things. One of them is environment, which is what we've basically been tackling for the better part of today. But we also have another aspect that is about what we call social, and it touches on inclusion and diversity, which we are really, really big and strong at. And the last one is governance, which is all about doing business the right way. For us to be truly sustainable and organizations of the future, we have to remember those 3 things. It's about the environment, it's about doing business the right way, and it's about inclusion and diversity. Thank you.
My name is Mwendwa. I'm from Coca-Cola Beverages Africa. We are the makers of your favorite drinks. We will sort this out when we are dancing.
Yeah, let's go back.
So we'll sort this out when you're drinking, when you're dancing, and drinking as well. I think for us, one of the key issues on sustainability is just the very thought that where we are, a lot needs to be done to fix the damage that's happening going forward, but also that there needs to correct what's already done. So urgency with action, and for brands that are responsible, like all of us here, there's a sense of responsibility that comes with it. So that for us at the back of mind is usually our big issue. Yeah.
Thank you. Joachim?
Thank you. My name is Joachim Westerweld. We have seen each other this morning. I'm also the CEO of the fastest growing and most preferred soft drink in Kenya, so we can talk about that later. Just making that. No, you're done. Your time is no, on a serious note. So I think the good thing, John and I think many people in the Coca-Cola system, and we know each other, because what binds us, what always brings us together, despite that we're friends and competitors, is a deep concern for what we do, what we're doing today to make sure that what we do today allows business and society to thrive in 5, 10, 15, and 50 years. I think if in this context, taking on the beverage hat, I think our biggest challenge that we have today is our packaging. And I think there is Coke and ourselves and some other companies, I think we've been very early members of PETCO, making sure that for every gram of PET that goes in the environment, a gram is actually recycled. But recycling is not circular. It means it's always downcycling. It means it ends up being a fleece jacket or whatever. I think if you would ask me today what my biggest and what our biggest challenge is and should be, is how to make sure that we become truly circular in terms of our packaging. That means bringing recycling bottle to bottle. And I think that is something we're all striving for, which has some hurdles. So if you ask me what's your main challenge, that would be the one I would like to raise.
Okay, so leading on from that straight away, whilst you still have the mic, if you can just give us a little bit of background about what Bio have been doing in this space in terms of the changes that they've been trying to make to create a more circular process.
Thank you. So first, I think when we started, the first thing we did, so our milk is packed in PET bottles, as you've seen. The first thing we did was we lightweighted it, so we reduced it by 30%. So we made it much lighter. We also also introduced the 2 liter to make sure you have more milk to plastic ratios or more milk, less packaging. That was step number 1. The second is obviously, as I said, we were one of the first, together with Coke, one of the first paying members of Petco, saying making sure that actually whatever plastic we put out there is actually being collected and recycled. We started to do take-back bins with supermarkets, and Coke did the same. I think the idea, and I'm just drawing back on the conversation about antibiotics. I think a lot starts with awareness of consumers. There's many people, I think, who are driving cars, and you see somebody throwing a bottle out of the car, right? You saw that? You've seen it, right? And you're, this is very bad, what these people are doing, blah, blah, blah. But the interesting thing, and I've done it at Bio, I went into the group in front of our staff, and I held up a bottle, and I said, how long do you think it will take for this bottle to disintegrate? Anybody has an idea in the room? Anybody? That's a little bit too much. Anybody else? 100? Up. Up. Cat?
It's between 300 and 500 years.
Yeah,
I think.
300 and 500 years. But in our staff, there were people that said 1 week, 2 weeks, 9 months. But no, but this is an important point. If you are not aware, if you think it's 2 weeks, of course you throw it out of the window. Because it's only going to be there for 2 weeks. But once you make somebody aware, and I think some of you are now, the next time you pick up a bottle, you will be thinking differently about that packaging. Because you know, if that just goes out in the environment, it will stay around for a long time. So the second is consumer education, to make people aware, and therefore making sure that they treat that packaging in a different way, that they will bring it back, that they'll separate it, etc., etc. From then we went further. Then you might have seen our bottles became like translucent, less white. So we did a whole investigation, how can we make our bottles more recyclable? Because once it's colored, it's more harder to recycle. And I think Coke has done the same with their Sprite bottles. And lastly, you will soon see that our bottles will become totally transparent for milk, which is actually very beautiful because you can see your milk, and we are very proud of what's in the bottle. But it also makes sure that it's more recyclable. And then the next thing that we would like to do, and I think we had plans to launch it, but it got a bit derailed by COVID, is to actually move to rPET. But obviously rPET prices globally have gone through the roof. It's actually hardly available. So I think, I'm looking at my neighbor, I think as industry we really need to drive, and we are actually doing to make sure that we get to circularity within Kenya, meaning we collect PET in Kenya, we bring it to recyclers, and they recycle it into rPET.
Thank you. So one of the sort of challenges that Joachim's just spoken about is sort of consumer understanding. I'm just wondering, John, if there's anything you can talk to us about some of the challenges you faced during this process, either within a Kenyan context or more globally. But I think Kenya's a particular interest of things that you've tried to do and have either failed, or challenges sprung up that you didn't think of, and why those sprung up.
So I think starting from what Joachim was talking about is we are united. You know, whether you're doing business as competitors, we are united. And one of the challenges that we face, especially from our member education or consumer education, is they believe that they don't have a part to play in circularity. Okay? And that part is so critical because the reason why there's plastic, and there's of course need for more circularity and, you know, putting more food grade PET back. The reason why there's plastic in the market, in the production process, is actually consumer convenience. Okay, people want it on the go. People want it now. People want to pick it and not have the responsibility to take it back for a fee. So one of the challenges is that part that they don't have a responsibility, and that's why you see people pick up the bottle and throw it off their car, or they will throw it out and the next person takes a picture and says, look at what Coca-Cola is doing, yada, 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 okay. But we forget that this, as a consumer, I've got a responsibility. Now, I know standing here, I was sitting here, when we talk about what we do, almost seems like we're blowing our own trumpet. But we probably pick more than 100% of the waste we put out in the environment. But as long as that effort of picking the waste through the mechanisms that we have through PETCO and now PACPRO is not met by corresponding behavior, consumer behavior, that's a challenge. Okay. The other one is consumers are very easy to target big brands. It's very easy to tag you because you've got a Twitter handle. It's very easy to tag me because I've got a Twitter handle, same as a brewery. That pointing of the finger to the other person in itself, that attitude that my mess has to be cleaned up by the other person, is a subset of challenge that we will have for sustainability in the future. What I've seen is when you have messages on your bottle, when you have messages on your comms, whether the comms are mainstream or social media, that's where I see a lot of people go to. There's an effect. Okay, let me share something. We did a reputation survey just the back end of last year, and we thought, or I would have thought, that people love us for the great taste. Okay, because it's really great taste. I thought people would have loved us for iconic 137 years on Earth. Okay, but people love us, and people are looking for sustainability. So those messaging and actions that we do eventually have an impact. That's what I would say. But critical is consumers are not changing behavior, okay, and consumers are expecting someone else other than they to do the job. You know, throw out the bottle, and please, can you come and pick it? So just. Yeah.
To recycle anything that comes as a byproduct from the use of your product. You have produced, you have packaged, it has gone out there, they have reused. What awareness have you created to this consumer about this bottle so that you don't find it on the road, you blame the consumer again?
Very good concern. I wish I could get your name.
I'm Grace.
Oh, Grace.
Yeah.
So, Grace, let me tell you what has happened from 2018. So, 2018, there was a coming together of like-minded producers. Okay, like-minded producers. Coca-Cola is there. You're there as well. And we said, what are we going to do to, one, protect the world, the environment? And if you listen to my conversation and Joachim's, you will see that we talk a lot about world without waste. Okay, world without waste then became something that is aspirational for companies to have. And we came together in 2018 and formed what's called a PRO, a producer responsibility organization called PETCO. Okay, and how PETCO or producer responsibility organizations work is they get funding, and it's very good, like Joachim, you said, paying members. It gets paying members contributing to them, who then subsidize collectors, who then pass on the waste to the PET to recyclers. So if you look at the journey of PETCO from inception, and I'll allow you to give you numbers, is we've continually picked, or what we call reclaimed, waste from the environment over and above the amount we put in the environment. So this is that work we're doing. But without stealing the thunder from my brother here, is if you do collection only, you fall short. Okay, you look at how do you manage the collection as an ecosystem, not as someone. You don't put machinery to go and collect because some of it is in landfill. So there's a lot of empowering of communities, groups, youth groups, women group, who now do the waste management, and out of it, earn a living. So we look at it very end to end. Yes, we produce. Yes, we put the message here. Yes, we do light weighting. Yes, we clear the color off some of the bottles like Sprite, and you see it in the sun now. We do everything that's in the technical side of design. We then empower the middle, which is PETCO, with resources to empower collectors. but we also track that so that it's empowering other people. So that people who are collecting waste 10 years ago, 20 years ago, they were called chokoras, right? Yeah, who wants to, chokora doesn't want to collect waste. It's a dirty job. Now they are waste managers because they earn revenue out of it. Okay. So then on the extreme end is partnering with recyclers. And there are lots of recyclers who do a good job. There are lots of recyclers who are doing, who have invested. Because it's very expensive to set up a recycling farm. Okay. Then industry, and I talk about industry like us here, is then we're contributing a lot to the regulation that allows food-grade PET to come into effect, so that recycled PET, and that's where circularity comes in, is food-grade PET can come back into this bottle, can come back into a milk bottle, can come back to anything that you consume. So there's, and just for avoidance of doubt, I am not shifting the blame to the consumer. I think the question was, what is the role of the consumer? Okay. So yeah, there's absolutely every responsibility, and that's why we form producer responsibility organizations. Yeah.
If I may, I think, John, I'm totally with you. I think there's a very interesting point here about, Grace, what you mentioned about consumer awareness. So I'm just going to, I think we're all consumers here, right? I'm going to ask you a question. Who knows where Dandora is? Raise your hands. Good. Who can tell me what we do at Dandora? Dumping site. Fine. Who can tell me what the percentage of non-organic waste is at Dandora? Non-organic. Grace, you have any idea? Down. Any idea? Non-organic. Anybody wants to try? Grace, you want to go down? Try. 30%. 70% of the waste in Dandora is organic waste, which is being burnt, which is getting lost, correct? Yeah. Can you imagine? Are you amazed? You're not amazed, but you thought it was 80%. You know what we could do with that stuff? Make organic fertilizer, right? So, and this is not to point fingers, but it shows that awareness of the consumer. Will you, next time when you go home, when you throw food away, you'll think of Dandora, right? Because you know this is probably going to end up in Dandora. It's a total waste. So everybody, I think one of my, Rosie or somebody earlier today made this comment about finish your plate. But it's that basic. If you finish your plate, that food will not end up in the dustbin, and that food will probably not end up in Dandora, and it will not be burnt and won't get lost. So I think we as producers have a responsibility in terms of what we put out to bring it back in and more, and to make sure that it becomes less and it becomes circular. I think we also have a responsibility with the consumer and with the government to do consumer education. Because again, if you, based on true understanding, you empower better decision making. And if you are aware, you make different decisions about what you do with your waste. So I think it's a partnership. It's not a consumer thing, a producer thing, a government thing. This will only get better if we do a systemic approach. And that's what, with CAPRO, now PACPRO, what we're trying to do is we're trying to, first of all, do what's right. Second of all, educate consumers. We put collection bins, etc., to make consumers aware. And we want to partner with the government to make sure that actually regulations are put in place and consumer education is being done so that our behavior as a society around waste changes. Because that is the critical thing. It cannot be one party. It's a partnership. Thank you.
If I could just add, so in our industry, alcoholic beverages, we are not allowed to use PET. So our main container is actually glass. But we realize that in some markets, beer is sold as one way. So you buy, go away with the container, choose what it is you want to do with that container. Creates a similar problem with PET. Now, let's come closer home. In Kenya, in our beer industry, all our glass is returnable. So we collect back. And we have created a mechanism that has lasted more than 40 years. So it's a very mature value chain that works really well. And I believe it's the same with Coke. Yeah? But for our spirits brands, the way the market is positioned, and it's not just Kenya, is that you buy and go away with the container. Now, largely what we have seen is that over the last 5 to 10 years, the market in terms of consumer preference has shifted towards more of spirits and less of beer. So you realize that our value chain is already challenged, the value chain for beer. It is very well established, but it is now challenged. So we see that a bigger problem is arising on the spirits end because the glass is one way. So what we've done is that we first of all lightweighted the glass. And when we lightweight, it means we are spending less energy producing that glass. We are spending less raw materials to produce that glass. So in a way, we are conserving the environment. But that alone is not enough. So as KBL, we are getting into an engagement we are calling Rudisha. So it is, like my two co-panelists have said, educating the consumer that whatever you're carrying away as a container has value and can contribute in creating sustainability for the future. And therefore, a mindset transformation for the consumer is absolutely important at this point. And the reality is, as we are doing all this work, there will be regulations coming in the near future. So as a producer, we'll be required to have certain mechanisms to collect. I suppose as consumers, there should be some responsibility also on how to handle that container so that it just doesn't end up in the wrong areas. However, we're also seeing innovation happening out in the marketplace where people out there collect, but rather than return to us, find other ways to use those containers. And I think I saw a clip somewhere, I think 2 weeks ago, of some young men trying to use plastic containers like this to make furniture. We've seen places where glass is actually used to make some very artistic instruments. Some people are actually using those bottles to make glass like this to consume for purposes of serving whatever they sell. So there are many ways that these containers can be used. However, there has to be an absolute mindset shift on the part of the consumer, even as producers and originators of whichever products that go in those containers, try to put in mechanisms and ways of collecting back. It's not as easy as it is said because consumers want convenience. I want to buy and leave and go with that container. That is an issue we have to address.
Thank you. I think I'm actually now going to open up. I think there's some people that are interested in asking questions. I don't know if there's a mic around.
My name is Brian. I work with Promaco Limited. Mine is, I want to stand for the consumer who is back in his or her house and has water or juice or milk in a bottle. Once you've drank off the water, or you've removed them, you've used the milk or the soda, you are left with that bottle. The next thing is, yes, it is written is recyclable, or maybe it is not written. What will you do as a consumer at such stage? So it's not some consumers we could be aware of that we need to return this or we don't need to discard this. But the only option you have in your house is your bin so that the waste collector can come and pick it up. So you see, it then, we don't know where the waste collector maybe will go to Dandora or wherever he will go. But we are left, most of the consumers are left, they may have the knowledge, but they are left with no way or no alternatives of disposing that. That's for that consumer. But I've seen, for instance, the biofoods bottles, especially the 2 liters. I've been in the industry for some time, and I've seen some innovative people using that bottle. Once you remove, it's not, I don't know if you know the secret. When you remove the label, it becomes a very nice 2-liter bottle. So when you wash it and it's very clean, you can use it for, you put milk. I've seen in our areas, you put mursik and they resell and they return it the next day. So I've seen that innovation really working well. It's a nice bottle. So thank you.
Thank you. Let's give this guy a big applause. He deserves a big applause. Now, I think, if I may, I think it's a very good point. So we're among friends, right? So let's start with what really happens. And this is not something I think is right, but it's a reality. Take your garbage bag tomorrow, put it in the street in the morning, and look what happens. Do you know what happens? I can't see you now. What is your name, by the way? Brian. What will happen if you do that?
For instance, where we have proper collections in the apartments.
No.
No more ones.
Kenyan.
Kenyan one.
We're among Kenyans here. Let's talk.
Cows will go over it and it will be discarded.
No,
all
it will
over.
be opened.
Yeah.
And it will be separated. People will come. There's one chokora who's coming to get the PET out. The next chokora comes to get the paper out. The next comes to get the metal out. That's what's going to happen. Tuko pamoja?
Sawa.
Sawa. So that shows you that waste already has a value, right? Now the second layer is, let's say that you have a collection truck, that you have a collection service. I can bet you if you drive on a Thursday in my estate or anywhere else behind the collection truck, you will see that garbage go in the collection truck. Before it gets in the collection truck, what happens? They open it and they start separating, right? Because that waste has a value. So the only thing that we are doing with the PRO is to make sure that we subsidize the formal waste collectors to formalize this chain, to make sure that people are not at the behest of all kinds of mafia, blah, 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 but that it becomes formalized. Because that waste in itself has already value, and wherever it doesn't have enough value for the formal value chain to intervene, we put extra money into the value to make sure that collection is happening. And the good thing for you as a consumer is there is more and more waste collectors, and Taka Solutions is one of them, that are actually delivering their services to households. You can actually engage them. They will collect your waste for you, and you don't have to separate it at source. And I think, for instance, at Bio and at my house we do it as well. 99.8% of that waste is then being recycled. So there is options. I think the ultimate holy grail is obviously that we do collection, separation at source, so that you feel at home you're not mixing it up for somebody to separate it. But there is, so my answer to you is, it is already happening. The only thing that we try to do as a sector, together with you as a consumer, to formalize that informal chain. Does that answer your question so far? Great. John.
And thanks. So that's what's happening now. With the Sustainable Waste Management Act, it's actually going to be sweeter. Because you will be mandated. Yeah. You'll be mandated to do segregation at home. Okay. Then, so even those people who are responsible and have two bins, they sort of get heartbroken when they see the same bin that has plastic is thrown in the same tractor as food. But now the people who collect will also be mandated on separation. So as we advance, because it's a maturity journey, I must say, it's a maturity journey. As the law comes into effect, you'll be mandated and supported to segregate at the household level.
We can have one more question if there is one, and then we're going to call it a day.
I think I'll take it from here. So my name is Dexter Adiola. I work with Unilever. At Unilever, we believe that making sustainability commonplace is what we stand for, and that's what we drive. Really good session from the panel. Really great stuff. I do actually remember with Mr. Green, all of that initiative that we all worked on together. I think that was really great, you know. The question is, the way we've driven sustainability and this recycling process, we've tried to incentivize, you know, a system, you know, to do it, you know, either through them making money by doing it. How do we find that consumer articulation, you know, that meets a benefit for him to actually recycle? You know, we've come together, we formed the union, PETCO, all of that. But what is that? What's in it for the consumer? Why would the consumer want to do this in a way that is scalable? Because as long as we do it ourselves, that's great, and we have this mandate that is coming up with the policy. How do we articulate a clear message that is consumer-facing and that really makes it big and drives it? In my mind, I think we've done well to come together as companies to start this movement. But do we need to take it more to start consumer campaigns together? And I know individually we do it. Unilever has consumer-facing messages with digital, and it's the same way with the World Cup. People have different football tournaments, but once you have the World Cup, it becomes so big an initiative that it's unmissable. Do we need to move to that next message? I like the way, you know, Joachim is sitting right next to John, and they're talking like partners, despite the fact that they're competitors. Do we need to sit and design that sort of consumer-facing message that is truly unmissable and can change the game? You know, so just your thoughts on that one as well is what's in my head right now as I'm thinking. So yeah, but really good stuff. And from the man at Tusker as well. I keep forgetting your name, but really good points from you on circular economy with glass.
Actually, the reason I picked the mic is to say that I worked at Unilever. I think, just where I'm standing now, is we need to empower the consumer with knowledge. That becomes his or her motivation. That this, when you segregate, this does not destroy your environment. This conserves the environment. That's what I think. But the economic angle of waste is not at the consumer level. It's at the next level where someone can collect more, from different households. So what we need to do is go with a multifaceted for where we drive motivation. So if someone comes to me at the household level and says, by the way, if you segregate, your great-grandchildren will see the world as it is today. Okay? Then go to the next level and say, by the way, if you collect all this, you can put food on the table because it's worth X Y amount. That could be the deal maker. So checking different motivations. But I will say something that I said, I think, last week in a conference, that we need to start consumer behavior change. Not here on this panel where we know what it is, we have resistances, we have fingers to point. We need to go to schools. We need to go to schools. And I'm very nostalgic about those clubs that were there. 4K clubs and forestry. And that's where real behavior change will happen. And that's longer term. Remember, like I opened by saying, we're trying to fix now. Okay, we need the next generation to come and maintain. So to answer your question, that's what I would think. Grace is speaking the mic. Oh.
Yeah, so the truth of the matter is that we got here, and the realization that we are where we are has taken a bit of time. Now, fixing this is not going to be as fast. It is gradual, and there are a couple of options different industries can pursue. Education is key. Now, we realize that educating adults is not like educating kids. So different styles have to be applied. Now, sometimes I try drawing a parallel, what we learned from COVID and how we can translate those lessons to many other things we do in life. During the pandemic, we were very eager to learn and understand what was going on so that we could take the right measures for our survival. But I think soon after there was a solution to COVID, we went back to the old ways. So there are things we see on the go and they don't mean much to us. I think we are at a point where sustainability and true sustainability has to get solutions that need to be pursued now. And how we create an environment where everybody gets to appreciate the importance of their own individual action is going to be very key. So schools is one option. The question is, how do we get everybody else, the people who are in this room, and the people who can really drive a behavior change in the society? I think that's where the real solution is going to come from.
To add on to that, let me introduce myself. My name is Anthony Mutweri. I represent a company called Andritz Feed and Biofuel. And on the topic of sustainability, and especially for companies such as Coca-Cola and the likes, where we are talking about waste generated from, let's say, plastics and glass, I always say that, yes, we talk about the consumer, but it all starts with the producer. Because what stops Coca-Cola, for example, in putting up a recycling facility for their own production, for the products that you're producing? Okay, it's one step to have the PRO, okay, and another step to take measures as a company itself to say there is technology available to say that as a company, can we go a step further to invest in our own recycling? Because you cannot motivate the pickers to collect this waste from Dandora and not know where to take it, okay? And only if one investor has invested in a recycling plant, but it does not trace back to you, it doesn't give a lot of people motivation. So there is the onus on the producers of the products to say, okay, can we do it ourselves, take that responsibility because the technology is there. But on a longer term, you asked about Dandora. I don't know why we don't talk about the technologies that are available in other markets. We know there is refuse-derived fuel, okay, technology that can be able to process all this waste. But the question is, why does industry, why don't companies like yourselves under the PRO not come together to invest in the solutions that you know would create a bigger impact in society, in cleaning up Dandora, in enabling the customers that you're saying you are empowering to collect the waste, to collect more and clean up the produce that you're making. So my question is, what's stopping you as Coca-Cola, as Bio, as KBL, from forming or investing in something that's economically viable, even to be able to generate electricity into the national grid? What stops you? Because this question of just funding waste collectors is piecemeal. It's very small. More can be done.
So thanks, Joachim, because that's a question. So let me, please remind me your name. Anthony. Anthony, if you look at, am I hogging the space, by the way? Maybe you should answer this question. If you look at the end-to-end, what are producers doing? Okay. We started with Joachim talking about lightweighting. We're talking about, Daniel talked about lightweighting the glass. The impact is humongous. It is huge. When you take the bottle, the Sprite bottle, for example, and make it clear, the impact for recycling is huge. If I got the plans right, you make the bottle for milk clear, the impact is so huge. Okay, so let me do an answer to your concern. Why can't we do recyclers? And it goes back to the old adage of, if you want to go fast and faster, you go alone. But if you want to go further, you must go with other people. Okay. Yeah, I don't know.
So I think John is very right. I think, Anthony, a couple of things. And as you're quite bold, I'm going to be bold as well. I'm Dutch, so I can't help myself. I think, first of all, let's be very clear. When we started Petco, now PACPro, in 2019, there was no legislation, not at all. The companies that formed that Petco voluntarily said, we're going to pay to make sure collection happens. Nobody told us to do that. I don't think you've seen anybody ever shouting in the newspapers, we're doing it. We did it because it was right. And why did we do it? There's a very simple principle. You can't recycle without collection. Simple. And I will tell you today, and I'm very happy that Dexter made a remark about Mr. Green, it has taken years for Mr. Green to be able to come to the volume that they might even contemplate of starting an RPET, a recycling PET plant. Am I right, Dexter? Right? Because what was the volume? I personally looked at it 3 years ago. I could not make the business case work because the collection volume we have in Kenya is too low. Why? Because it's not only in Nairobi that we have plastic, we have it all over the country. And transporting plastic is transporting air. So the biggest problem is not unwillingness, the problem was getting volumes. So what we did as companies that are members of Petco, making sure that we started the collection to build the volumes. And then we had the lucky circumstance, or not the lucky circumstance, the very good circumstance, that the government backed us up with the waste management bill. And the waste management bill, we as industry have been extremely supportive of that bill. Why? Because once that bill is in place, it means anybody that is producing waste needs to be member of a producer responsibility organization and needs to pay that fee. And that's where John and I are very happy, because then it's no longer the willing, it is everyone. And when everyone has to do it, the volumes will grow. And when the volumes will grow, Mr. Green, one of the companies that are making an rPET plant, is actually getting enough volume to do rPET.
But
yeah. So do you still want to qualify it as piecemeal?
we're going to call it a day there.
No, just want, do you still want to call it piecemeal? Huh? Me too. But piecemeal is not the word, right? Let's give him an applause.
So I have the mic. I was told I have 30 seconds. Sorry. To Daniel, I think maybe conversation amongst the players on reverse vending machines can answer the question for now. Maybe it's an investment that guys need to look at because it would clean up faster. But my real point was, consumers keep saying producers. I think really as consumers, we must take responsibility. Even if they set up a recycling factory, somebody has to collect. And the reason we are a dirty country is personal responsibility. It's not Coke that has dirtified the country. It's not biofoods. It's you yourself. We were speaking in the morning and I said, every human being in Kenya, research shows you waste 99 kilos of food to the 70% he was talking about. 99 kilos of food on your plate, of food you served and didn't finish. A responsibility of takataka and chafu in the country is not the producer's responsibility. It is your responsibility. If we dispose responsibly, then we will reduce the problem. Yeah, if we can't keep saying, so maybe the solution is then don't produce Coke, don't produce any bioproducts, because it is their fault that we don't have takataka. Yeah, so it's our responsibility as well. It's not the manufacturers. It's really not. It annoys me that we refuse to take responsibility for what really is. We are probably the bigger problem.
And I could not agree more with you. Think about it this way. We've spoken about packaging largely. This discussion has largely been about packaging. But think about textile waste that we generate. If you buy an outfit, Zara, once you're done with it, are you going to say Zara will have to collect? It's not possible. So responsibility has to be with me. And I'm raising textile waste because that should trigger our minds. How much more waste have we never really recognized? That we should start recognizing and think about what it is we need to do with it.
Thank you so much to all our panelists. If we can give them a round of applause, call it a day there.